Okay, so I've just started recording. This is Richard Payton, and we're talking about the experience using the applicant pool system. I'm going to start off discussing the applicant experience, but I'll be then talking about for recruiters who are going to be considered in the system posting managers, how they can review applications and how they can create job listings and push them out to other sites. And I'll also talk just a little bit up front about the applicant experience. So with that, this is your site. It is actually up and running. We've got job listings that are active. We have active applicants, and I will be logging in with a restricted login. So I'm going to be looking at applicants for a single state and showing you what that experience is like. For administrators of the system, when they log in, they see all jobs, all applications, and they can do a bit more as far as reporting as well. But I'm going to be restricting this to what recruiters want to see and need to see. So talking first about the applicant experience, this again is your site, and we're looking at it on a computer. If you look at this, if you go to alphabest.applicantpool.com on a mobile phone, then you see the left-hand information fit to your screen. So it's a fully mobile optimized experience for applicants. And when you go in and you look at a specific listing, then you have a similar experience. You see the job listing itself. It is fit to your screen, so you're not having to swipe back and forth or squeeze it down. And the information on the right, where you can begin entering your contact information to start the application, that is going to be down below where you're viewing the job listing on your phone. Across the U.S., that's about 54% of applicants on Indeed, our biggest source, are coming in via mobile phone. Chances are your applicants are, I would just imagine, given the nature of your hires, that you're probably at that amount or higher. They're coming in via mobile devices, so that's a pretty important consideration. So they can view all of this information, and all that's terrific. You are, however, getting about probably 70 to 90%, and we can even at the end possibly pop in and look at your analytics. Oh, at this point it's actually higher because you're not, it's over 90% of your applicants right now are coming in via Indeed. So just to describe briefly that experience, your typical applicant is going to be looking for keywords that describe the type of job they're looking for, and they'll put in, and even if they don't put in, Indeed picks up, because of their internet service provider, it will pick up the city and state that they are in. But if they almost always will say, I'm looking for a job in, and I happen to be in Austin, Texas. So the first few jobs are sponsored listings, which your listings are sponsored, and so they will oftentimes, but not always, show up in the sponsored area, but they can also show up as what we call organic listings. In this case, they're not using your pay-per-click dollars every time someone clicks on one of these. They will show up as easily apply listings, so that when a person clicks on the listing, they don't go to your applicant pool site or any other site. They stay on Indeed. They view the job listing, and this again is going to be mobile friendly, so they see this fit to their screen. When they click on Apply Now, they will answer your job screening questions. Those are job-specific questions that you can ask that everyone who comes in via Indeed answers, and then they can submit their information. When they're logged in to Indeed, that information will again include all of their contact information, their resume. It will almost always, as long as they're logged in, it will include prior employers and education information. If they're not logged in and they're on their computer, then they can get by with putting in less information. So you will have some like that, and I'll describe what you can do with those applications if you need to get more information. Let me show you what it looks like for those applicants who come from your, assuming at some point you have a link from your corporate site, or you send people directly to a job listing, what their experience is. So they'll put in their contact information, and I'm going to actually not put in the contact information. I'm going to go ahead and log in as if I'm an applicant who did that, had to leave the system for whatever reason, and they're coming back.
Richard, before you do that, could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I've pulled up that exact job on my cell phone, the
Okay.
after-school toddler teacher, and as I'm scrolling down it, this ad is longer than the one that we've generally put on Indeed. I'm seeing it's like broken out more. In your experience, do you find our ads too long and wordy? Could that be some of the reason we lose some people? Because this particular ad seems to have really been broken out more than what we've had on Indeed, although, I mean, what our original ad looked like, although I could go back and double check that, but this is quite a long list of things for people to look through to say, gee, I think I want to apply for that part-time job.
That's a really good point. So I know from joining in on some webinars with not just Indeed, but Career Builder and even Monster at one point, they talk about what the drop-off rates are for potential applicants. And I've not heard them address so much the length of the job listing itself, because when you think about your applicants, if they're coming in from computer or cell phone, they're looking for, does the job title match more or less what I'm looking for? They initially on Indeed, all they see are, oh, and this is actually maybe a bit of interesting information for you. The preview text that you see is not always the very first text in your listing, and it may not necessarily, when you look at some of these, you're wondering why does it have this? It is actually, Indeed is super smart about this. They know for a given person who's searching on their site, they know what keywords they put in, which I put in no keywords, which explains some of the randomness here. They also know what keywords that potential applicant has used before, and most particularly what keywords they've used for job listings where they've ended up submitting their information or submitting an application, if you will. So, so the keywords are going to match what the applicant is looking for more closely than what mine do here. And so that's going to be a match. The title is going to be a match if they're going further. And when they come to this page, to a degree, they're going to be looking for what they're looking for. So if they immediately want to go down, and so they scroll down, and you can do that super fast on a cell phone, just swipe, and you're down at the bottom.
Right.
So if they're looking for, all right, are they looking for something that I'm concerned that I don't have? And they look at this, if they get comfort that, okay, yeah, it looks like I'm qualified, and they move on, then I don't think having the longer text is going to cause any significant drop-off. Does it cause some? You know, it's arguable. Are you going to get better candidates because they can get a real sense of what the organization is looking for, and particularly in this position? Maybe. Are they going to drop off because of this? Not as likely as if they have to go to multiple pages to submit their application. Every additional screen that you have to go to, you lose a sizable fraction. So that's the bigger consideration that I understand. Okay. So I'll say this. I think your more in-depth job description is far better than those that are too brief. You've seen some of them where it sounds like, you know, we're just a body mill. You know, we just churn through people. So here's all you need to know. If you can, you know, those kind of turn me off. Yours looks very thoughtful, and so I think that from that perspective, good. Okay. So a person, you're welcome, and thanks for the question. So a person who is returning to the site, they can put in their information. They are asked actually to create a password, but it can be as simple as a single character once they put in their first information if they're coming to this site. Indeed, of course, they don't have to have anything at all. They just submit. And that's going to be the bulk. But those that come directly in here, they can set it up. If they've forgotten their password, they should hopefully still know their email address, so they can request it. So I'm going to log in. So this is your actual application that applicants see when they come to this site. From Indeed, they're just simply submitting their employment, their education, their resume. They don't see the rest of this. And their job questions if we're on a job listing that has job questions. So it's relatively common, the rest of this. If they are on a cell phone, we make it easy enough, because even if they're on an iPhone and they can't store their resume, if they want to upload one and they have it stored on Dropbox or Google Drive, which are the largest, most common places for those, they can do that, or they can put in text and they can save that as a text file or leave it as text. So they can do both. They can upload one or more files, and they can have cover letter if they want. So if you need additional information, some sort of portfolio or other documentation, you can ask them for it and they can include it. All right, so the rest is pretty standard. Once they submit their application, they get a thank you email and they get a thank you message on screen. At any point, they can go in and they can complete a listing that they've started. They can print. In this case, they didn't complete the application, but they can print what they put in. Had they completed the application, then they would be able to print that complete application, and they can, at any point, log back in and update their own contact information. Now, unless you invite them to come back and update any of the rest of their application, they're not able to access it. But if you request that they do, then they can do that as well. They can come back and complete additional fields or anything that was not completed first time. All right, so that's the applicant experience. So let's go ahead then and talk about what it looks like when you log in. So everybody comes to the same admin.applicantpool.com, and the rest of this is just because of how I got here. That's not usually there. So you'll put in your username and your password. Nothing fancy there, and you log in. You can set up your login to where you land on a job view. If, for instance, you have multiple jobs and you always want to be able to just go in and look at one or another of them. But you can also, when you go over to, I got this blocking my view up here, you can go to your the gears icon, and you can go into My Account, and you can reset your login information, but you can also reset which page you land on. If you want to land on applicants instead of jobs, you can do that. So as far as the overview of what you see as a non-posting, or I'm sorry, as a posting manager, you see applicants. So when you're on this view, you actually have 3 different views you can choose. But you're going to see in the All Applicants view your most recent applicants for the business units or divisions that you have access to. So if you've got just Texas, then you'll see just Texas. In this case, what were we looking at again, Maryland? But you can see the state or states that you want to see so that it's not cluttered up with everybody else's applicants and everybody else's job listings. Oh, we're looking at Virginia.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was looking to see who I could actually positively identify here, and I knew that we had job listings in Virginia, and we had a person who was interested in that. So you could also then just look at your applicants by job, and when you do this, you see for whatever date range you choose, which by default we were looking at just, so you can see some analytics around how many applicants. In fact, you can include choose rather to include other information. I don't know why I had custom fields on, except to show the option that you can have some custom fields, because I know there was an interest in doing some reporting that would possibly justify having some additional fields so that maybe you don't have to go and put your information, or at least as much of it, into a Google Doc. You might be able to generate it out of this site and then be able to do copy and paste into a Google Doc if you want. So you can get some analytics. You can also look at those people who started the process and bailed out for whatever reason. So let's, actually we are going back. Let me go back another month, see if we have any incomplete apps. Well, we don't for Virginia. And actually that makes sense because we didn't have people coming in from anywhere except for Indeed, and they were all accepted as complete. But if someone did bail out of the process, and let's say it's for a job listing where you're having a really hard time getting enough qualified applicants, then you could go in, and I wonder if even for one of these we've got any. Nope. So if you had some, you could actually view the information that they completed, and let's say that they put in enough information to where you get a sense that they really might be qualified. You could follow up with someone who didn't complete all of their information. They bailed out before they finished to see if they might still have an interest, particularly if they know that someone's interested in them. I'll touch on, or actually I'll not just touch on, I'll go through what you can do as far as posting your jobs. In this system, you have a search capability that looks across not just the application, but also the attached resume. And so when you search, you can do keyword search using Boolean search terms. So if you wanted to look for preschool, just preschool teacher maybe, you can put in those words. You can have them in quotes so that they have to be in that order or not in quotes. And you can even search once you're into your keyword search. You can even search miles from a zip code if you want. So you got a pretty strong search capability, and it's going to pull up only those records that match your criteria. So if you're looking for just last name or any other field, then it's not going to pull up people who are close but not quite there. It's going to pull up people that match. So that's primarily what I'm going to cover today. So looking again at our applicants. So your applicants, in this view, we're looking at all of them. You could, though, choose to look at a single listing, which actually opens up one more communication avenue for you. So let's say that you've looked at these applications and you think that 2 of these really ought to be looked at by another person that has access to view all of the applications for Virginia, and particularly for this listing in Virginia. And so if that's the case, and I'm going to show you multiple things that you can do from this page. So you could say to, you could put in a note, and so let's say that it's, where's Judy in here? There we go. You could put a note up here and say, Judy, you really ought to take a look at these applicants because, and maybe the reason why you're wanting to spotlight them for Judy is that maybe they're not the greatest fit for this particular listing, but you think that it may be good for something else that Judy's looking at. Or you want to say, Judy, can you follow up with these and see if maybe we can get some greater interest. Whatever it is, someone else that has access, you can spotlight the apps for them. So when you send the spotlight, they get an email, but they also get a little indicator above this spotlight that it's a little red indicator with, in this case, it would be a number 2 inside of it, so that they can click on this. They don't have to go find that email. They can go straight in. They can see the message that you included. They can see the status that has been given to that applicant and the applicant name and what job it is. So they can go straight in and view these applications that you spotlighted for them. So it's a nice communication tool if it works out for you to use it that way. Some of our clients really use that, some don't, but it's still a nice option. When you're looking at a list of applicants, you could update the status of multiple applicants at once. You could email multiple applicants. So let's say that you're hiring Katie, but these other 2 applicants, you need to send your thanks but no thanks email or not selected notification. And you can have as many email templates in here as you want, and you can even set them up so that no matter who uses the email, it will put your name down at the bottom of it because you're logging in with your unique login information, so it knows your name. The system does, so you can have it fill that in. So once you've sent, or you've given a terminal disposition or status to these applicants, and you've sent your thanks but no thanks, you could archive these applicants. You could also set up, if it makes sense, to have assigned users. So if you're screening these applications and you want someone else to see only those top 1 or 2 applications, you could set up assigned users and even assign them to someone so that they can view just those applicants. They don't see jobs. All they see is the applicants that you screen for them. Okay, so all those are options. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at an applicant here. And when you're viewing an application, you're actually you're using the filters that you chose on that prior page. or you can change the filter. So I could change to a different job listing. I could change to a different date range. I could look at archived applicants, or by default, we're looking at those who they answer your screening questions in a way that indicates that they are qualified. But if I wanted to choose to look at not just those that answered my screening questions well, but I want to look at all applicants because maybe I have figured out that I was a little too harsh in my criteria for my screening questions, so I want to not have those automatically disqualified. I want to consider everybody. I could do so. So you see a list here of all of the applicants that meet your filter criteria, so you can pop from one to the next to the next. And when you're viewing this applicant, you can see, well, you see their basic information. You can email them just by clicking on their link, but you can see where they were sourced from. In this case, Indeed Apply, and this is an example of what I was describing. You've got most of the information that you're looking for, but because it came from Indeed Apply, we don't, for instance, have the city and state of their prior employers. That information, Indeed doesn't request it, so you don't see it here. If this person had applied for some other job through this system, another AlphaBEST listing previously, you would see up here the same kind of information we saw earlier. You would see the status that they have for that prior job listing, what the job title was. You would see if there were notes associated with it. And if it's in a business unit that you have or a division that you have access to, you can actually hover over the notes and you can see the notes that someone has put in. So, and that's true as well on that prior page we were looking at. When you hover over the notes, you don't have to open up the application. You can just see what the notes are right there. You can see the same thing up here. So in other words, you can see the information that is germane to your consideration of an applicant for this job, because if they applied for some other job and they said heck no, you might want to find out why the status is heck no, or if it's interviewing, then you know that before you contact this applicant to interview for this listing, you might want to find out what the conclusion was of the interview for this other position. So if they've got multiple jobs they've applied to, you're going to be able to see the other applications. In the timeline, by default, we show you kind of a clean view so you can see any notes that have been added. If you want to see has anyone else or who has looked at this application, you can click on Actions. And so this is me. So you can see that I came in at, I'm on Mountain Time. I don't know what time I'm on here. Oh, I must be on Pacific Time. When I set up this login, I wasn't paying attention to my time zone, I guess. I don't know why I'm at 8:40. That doesn't make any sense. So, so nonetheless, you're going to see them with their local time zone, what time they viewed this application. I still have the notes turned on. And even if I want to see what emails have been sent to this applicant, I can check this box and do the same thing. If I want to add my own note, so let's say I want to change the status from this to something else and I want to explain why, I can click on Add Note. I can do so. I can change my status. This score is a different score than what we use because you have the potential to put in scoring associated with their responses to screening questions. So let's say that you've got some nice to have screening question and you think that it'd be good for those people that have an advanced college degree, for instance, that they get 10 points so they stand out from the rest of the crowd. You could set up screening questions, and I guess this is going to be at an organizational level, so that they have points there. This is more of a, I'm doing this for myself, so I want to put in some scoring and just know that relative to other applicants, this is where I see them at. From 1 to 10, I see this person as an 8. So then you can add your note, and there'll be one more note down here. All right. So the usual things that you're wanting to do are probably underneath Actions. So when you're looking at an application, very typically you're going to want to, particularly if they're coming in for an interview, you may want to print out their application and include with it the disclosures and a signature line so you can have them sign off that, yep, they're telling the truth. You can also email from here in addition to clicking on the email address. Here's that same spotlight. So let's say that now that you're in depth looking at this, you think of someone else and you say, you really ought to look at this application. Spotlight, again, only works for people who have access to see the applications in this business unit. and that's it. So if someone else doesn't have access for Virginia, you're not going to find them in the list in order to spotlight for them. I mentioned earlier that if someone sent in their information, and like this, let's say that you've never heard of Gardner School and you can't even find it when you Google it. So you want to say, where the heck is Gardner School? Or if you want to ask about their experience, or if you want to get, before they come in for an interview, you want them to complete references. And they haven't because they came from Indeed Apply. You can, in my view, you would want to talk to them. You want to make sure that they know this is not just a system-generated email. So I would call them up and I'd say, hey, I'm interested in bringing you in for an interview. Would you be willing to go back and complete some additional required fields in our application? Or some additional fields, including references. And if they say, sure, then you can put a note, hey, remember to also include your references. And you can reset their application. This drops them into that folder we looked at earlier, the incomplete applications folder. It would actually, you would see this, you would see an indicator, a red indicator that would say incomplete when you're looking at this application. So you can still view it, but it's not going to be treated as a complete application until either they resubmit their application, which that's the best case, and that's the usual case, or if they don't resubmit their application, you can go in and set this application back to complete if you choose. If you just give up on them doing it themselves, but they somehow gave you the information you need in a different format and you want to reset them to complete, you can do so. All right, so those are options you have. There are some other things. I won't go into the details on these, but that's the biggest piece of it. So for time consideration, I'll go ahead and pause the viewing of applications there. All right, and again, if you got any questions at this point, feel free. So let me talk about your job listing. So from your jobs page, you can see the jobs that you have set up. I was actually looking for something else here and didn't see it, but I think we're going to see it in just a moment. When you're viewing jobs, you've got some options. So you could go in and edit the listing, including what's seen out on job boards, which can be different than what you have on this site. So you can go straight to there. You can view for this one job listing where your applicants are coming from, and for that matter, where your visitors are coming from and how many of them are actually turning into applications. You can pull open a list of your applicants right here on the screen. And you can look at, in addition to the ad tracking report, so this is the sources of the applicants for this one job listing. And let's say that it's a job where you have a flood of applicants. You can, or even if not, you can pull this up and it'll show you how many of the applicants are at which different status point in the hiring process. So we have some standardized, you've got reviewing, interviewing, post-interview, hired, or not selected. So you got those different statuses that you can see where your applicants fall. All right, and of course, you can go in from here and you can edit any of your information. So I'm just going to blow through this very quickly. So you could, if you needed to tweak along the lines of what we were talking about earlier, you think you need to edit this listing, you can do so. You can put in your, oh, and I would definitely, here's something I'll point out on this. I'm guessing full-time position, you've got benefits. That's a big selling point. A lot of people, they will just skip past a job that doesn't mention benefits if they're looking at full-time employment. So I would put, if it's fair to say, comprehensive benefits package or something, I would definitely put in benefits if you've got it. It's a big selling point. We're not doing anything with these custom fields now. This was to address a potential interest in having fields that could be used to gather data that is used in your reporting. So I'd set them up for that purpose. But it could potentially be that that this is the person, or what was it, the area manager could be one of these. And anyway, we may use those for, or your organization may use those for an internal purpose.
And team, hi, this is Judy. The fields that we're not using now, but we could in the future, just to bring some clarity. Shandale, I took a look at your applicant tracker then traveled up to Massachusetts with Sue and took a look at the applicant tracker that's being utilized today via Excel, shared that information with Richard, and just to kind of build that connection, what we're talking about is this could become an applicant tracker system like Sue and Mona were using, and Mass. Same for you, Radia, just to build the connections on how we possibly could go forward in the future, so you don't have to run into Excel.
I like it. Else, you can gather data here and then drop it into a spreadsheet where you include additional information. But that way you're not having to type in all the contact information, you're not having to type in the stuff that's common to the job listings in this particular area, things like that. So when you're setting up your job listing, actually at an earlier point, you would generally tie in the job questions you want for that listing. And then since I haven't changed anything, I'm going to click on Save. Actually, this would have been Save and Create if I was initially doing this job listing. So now I'm going to see my information. Generally a good idea to put in a zip code because some people might search by zip code. That's an advanced search that not as many people use, but some applicants might. I'll go ahead and show you here that you can then, and we should, go ahead and you can include, if this listing was turned on for being pushed out to Indeed, then Indeed would already be selected here. Indeed picks up the feed 4 times a day. So if you're posting your job now, then it will in almost all instances be live later on today. But we also push out to a number of other free sites that pick up the job feed, so you can save those. And then you're able to push out to a number of other sites. So we have a bunch of universities, and Patty has gone in for one area where they had a group of colleges and universities they were interested in pushing to, and the ones that we didn't have, she was able to, was it in all cases, Judy? I think you said that it was. She was able to request that those be added, and they were. So if it's a university site or even some other site, generally they're free, which is kind of nice, but if they have enough traffic, as in both job listings from potential employers and people who are actively searching on there to where it's deemed to be relevant, so in other words it's going to be beneficial for you and or others, then the posting group will add those. So all you then have to do when you're posting your listing is choose the, in this case this is actually paid, but you don't have to pay a direct cost, it's a indirect cost I guess for you, but you can choose up to 5 of these, and there's really diminishing returns when you get past your first 2 or 3, arguably anyway, but we can't do this if you, in fact you'll get a nice request that you reduce the number if you have more than 5. So let's say you have up to 5, in this case I picked 4, all you have to do is click on Save, and it'll be pushed out to those sites. Okay?
So what do you guys think of that?
That's great.
Alfonso, are you impressed yet?
I love the fact that it's like a one-stop shop. Like everything is here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I guess, Sue, Mona, you saw the 10 universities that we went ahead. And again, our goal if we move forward is to have the universities already set up in the system so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so I'm going to take it one more step. So now that you've gone out to the sites that you're wanting to push to, you likely have, and I would imagine most likely, you've got LinkedIn connections who, they won't necessarily be the person that you're looking to hire, but they may know the person who may be interested in the job. So if you've got a robust LinkedIn network, so if you've got 500,000 or more links out there, you very likely have people who know people who might be interested. So you can select LinkedIn. So it's really whatever account you're logged into. So if you're logged into your own LinkedIn account or potentially some other, same thing with Twitter or Facebook, although those may not be quite as relevant in general, but they might be. Actually, Facebook in your scenario might be very relevant. So if you've got a bunch of Facebook friends and you think they know people who might, or if your employees know people, they've got the ability, and I didn't highlight it when we were looking at the job listing, but they can do the same thing. They can, your employees or applicants can share it with others via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, directly by email. If you're using Craigslist, I recommend using Firefox because it pops open 2 windows and you can go back and forth. Craigslist is not over on the job boards because their terms of use don't allow others to post on your behalf. So if you want to post on Craigslist, you have to do it yourself. We can't do it for you. No one else can do it for you, but we facilitate that. If you're going to LinkedIn, then you could just send it, or if you wish, and momentarily it'll open up, yeah, you could put in some encouraging words. Hey, if you know someone that this is a great job listing, and pass this on if you would. So you can click on share, and it'll show up anytime someone is looking at what you've posted. You've seen updates out on LinkedIn. That's what this is. It's just an update out on LinkedIn. So you do have that option. This is not the same as a job listing on LinkedIn, just to clarify. This is an update for people who are linked to you. All right, but it can be very, very effective. My clients who do have good LinkedIn networks tell me that they get some really good results from that. LinkedIn is careful to not compete with themselves, so that's why you won't actually see that being a job listing. So let me show you then what it takes. You're coming in here, let's say from scratch. These jobs are good, but you need to post a new job listing. You simply go out, you find the job title. In this case, this is all we have. There will be a broader selection later. These are the only ones that I tied to Virginia. So let's say that you need to down the road a little bit, you need to post another area manager, or maybe just in a different city. So you can pull up the area manager job template, and at this point you can take it from there. So you can put in your own unique information, or you can copy from the last instance that you had of an area manager. So if you know that this listing that was posted March 31st, maybe you want to repost it because that's going on 2 months ago, and you want to have a fresh listing on Indeed so that it shows up earlier in the search results. So maybe you want to let this old one expire and create a brand new one, or it could be that you just want to tweak this one. And because this listing is not pulling up whether that's a full-time or part-time, whether it's not pulling up which division it's in, anything like that, if I select my prior listing, it does pull in that information.
Hey, Richard, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I had to disconnect, I guess, and call back because I was trying to speak earlier, and I guess, I don't know, the audio on my end wasn't working. So I apologize about that, but I am back.
Quite all right. So did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I was trying to add on the college, whenever you guys push them out to the college board, I know on my end, whenever I post, let's say, for example, at Texas A&M University, I have to post, and in order for it to be approved, you have to go through that site. Are you guys going to do it to the back end, or how will that work for like specific universities that ask for, like, for example, an updated ad every 30 days, or needs pre-approval beforehand? So how does that work?
So the posting group, it's not an automated process, with the exception of Career Builder is automated, and I think there's one other site that's also automated. But for the most part, the posting group is acting as your surrogate. So you have your login information already entered when you set that up. And by the way, excellent choice, posting your job listings at Texas A&M. Fine university. So
yeah, I get a lot of hits from there. So it's good.
It's a good group of people there. I'm just saying.
Are you an Aggie?
Oh, possibly. Yeah.
That's funny.
Class of '84. Yeah.
Nice.
So, they're using your login information when they're posting there. If there's something additional that's needed, if, for instance, the login expires every 30 days, then you may have seen that one. It was Tufts where it said, you need to update the password or the login information.
Right.
That's your clue. They'll also send you an email. But that's your clue that you shouldn't use it again until you log back into the A&M site and update your login information. If there's something beyond that, then I've not heard of it. but they must be able to handle it because they got these thousands of sites across the U.S.
Perfect.
They deal with that all the time. Yeah, they're doing the work for you.
Very
Team,
nice.
this is Judy. That's what Laura will be securing from you if today you're already registered with colleges, universities. A part of our collection effort is to pass that information on forward, to ensure the university is listed, if it is, to make sure that ApplicantPool is aware of the registration or the login information. So what you have today, they have to know to manage the process on the back end to eliminate you having to do what you do today.
Very nice.
All right. So if your template had the job questions already set up, then it would be selected. If not, you can choose your job questions, and you can even create. We're going to be setting up your logins to where you can create your own. No, I take that back. We didn't set this up because that's going to already be done, so you won't be setting up. I was wondering why I didn't see that earlier. That was why I hesitated earlier. So the job questions should already be set up. If they're not, then you can request from one of your site administrators, and I'm not positive who those are going to be, but one of the site administrators can take care of that for you. So the rest of it you've already seen. You either have your questions or not. You do the rest of these, and then you're going to save and proceed, and you're back on that the job board page where you can tweak the job title if you need to make it more applicable to what people are looking for out there. So if you've got a job title internally that's not exactly what most people are looking for externally, you want to put the external title, you can do so. And if you need to tweak the listing on that next page, you can do it for the job boards. And that's the process. So with that, I believe I've covered everything. So actually, why don't I go ahead and pause the recording at this point. And then I know we're basically at the end of the time we